Today we'll be starting my book, The Story of Noah and His Family, which covers Genesis 6:11-26. And I also will have another Noah's book called Proving the Story of Noah's Ark, and that's equally as good. They combined together really well. So I also wanted to show you this chronology chart from Adam to Abraham as far as their ages. We'll probably be talking about that. Notice that Methuselah died at the year of the flood, but Lamech, who is Noah's father, died about 5 years before the flood. Anyway, we're going to be starting in the first chapter, which is chapter 6, verses 1-7. Great evil brings great destruction. The scripture says, when human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of humans, and they were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Now, this has been a scripture that a lot of Bible scholars have studied and tried to figure out. And so I'll give you a couple different theories about this. These two verses have produced so many questions. Let's dig deeper and see what we can discover. Note many versions translate the word man for the word human in verse 2. Okay, question 1. Let's complete the sentence. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth and daughters were born to them. And so where are we in time? Are using page 2 to answer the following questions. How many years since creation was Noah born? So let's see. Creation was 0. Noah was born in 1056. So 1056 years since creation of time. As we'll later discover, Noah is probably 400 years of age when this story starts. So adding the answer in 2A to 480, how many years since creation? So 1056 and 480 be 6, 3, 14 be 1583, right? 480. Now let me do the math. Make it easier here. 480. I should probably do this before I teach, huh? 1536. So we're in 1,536 years since the start of creation. Can we calculate the number of people that existed prior to the flood? Not with great accuracy, but we can see that it was a great number. If you consider for a moment that nearly all the men shown on page 2 had more sons and daughters than the ones written about in the Bible, consider Genesis 5:4 for an example, and that these men shown on page 2 are just the lineage of the Messiah and not all their brothers and sisters, you can see the population has really grown by the time the story is written. If every descendant had 10 children, long lives, together with God's command to populate the earth, then we have 10 generations to Noah, so 10 to the 9th power, or at least 1 billion people. Many Bible scholars believe it was more than that. So we really had a lot of people by the time of the flood. So who are the sons of God? And this has raised a huge question to a lot of people. So we need to look at the Bible to answer the question. There are 2 biblical theories. 1, the line of Seth, that is the blessed line of Adam, raising the sons of God, married or had relations with the line of Cain, cursed line of Adam, raising the daughters of man. Evidence to support this. 1, several names show up in both ancestral lines. Enoch, son of Cain, and the famous Enoch, who was a great-grandfather of Noah. Lamech, father of Noah, and also the great-grandson of Cain. Another evidence to support it. When God decides to destroy all mankind due to sin, he says nothing of fallen angels as far as destroying them. 3, in Deuteronomy 7:3-4, God warns the Israelites against marrying outside of the faith with a similar punishment. And in Matthew 22:30, at the bottom of next page, angels can't marry. So if it was the line of Seth, which was the Messiah line, marrying the line of Cain, which was the cursed line, we have the fact that God warns Israelites against marrying outside of their faith. God destroys all mankind, but he never says that there's fallen angels among the mankind. And names are the same in both ancestral lines. And also we know that angels don't marry. So that's the evidence to support that concept. But there's another concept that actually more commentators believe. The sons of God are fallen angels or demons who marry, that is, more have relations with the daughter of humans. Mary is probably the interpretation of having relations with. The evidence to support this, the result of this union will be Nephilim or giants. Normal human relations would not create these. So the relations between Seth and Cain's relations would not produce giants. The book of Job indicates the sons of God are angels. And you notice the scripture below, Job 1:6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came along with them. So we have at least a time in the Bible where sons of God meant angels. 3, Satan would want to pollute the race of humans, since according to Genesis 3:15, the human race is going to produce the Messiah. And if he can pollute it, then the Messiah can't come because it's polluted with satanic or fallen angels. 4, married any they chose. This doesn't seem to be a marriage and mutual agreement, but domination of the more powerful sons of God over the less powerful daughters of humans. 5, the book of First Enoch in the Apocrypha, not the Bible, see the bottom next page, also supports this theory. And 6, 2 Peter seems to talk about judgment for these very angels that have had relations with the daughters of men. So, what is the best evidence for you that the sons of God are from the line of Seth? Well, the best evidence I would have if I was to consider that is that the names are similar on both sides. That's the best evidence I would see, and that angels can't marry. What is the best evidence for you that the sons of God are demons or fallen angels? For me, the best evidence is the fact that the result of that union are giants or Nephilim. You would normally get that from humans. Which theory do you believe and why? I believe that the sons of God were angels, fallen angels, who had relations with the daughters of men because Satan wanted to pollute the human race so that the Messiah could not come through the human race and save it. Should we consider what the book of Enoch says, even though it's not considered inspired scripture? Why? Again, the book of Enoch is from the Apocrypha, not from the Bible. And I don't know that we consider it inspired scripture, although we can look at it though as another historical book during the time, possibly, at least as a consideration. If there's anything that it verifies in the Bible, then that part could be accepted. The book of Enoch is not considered inspired scripture since it did not pass qualifications to be included in the Bible. So we the various scriptures that we were talking about here are Deuteronomy 7:3-4, which has to do with marrying outside your race or religion or faith. Nor shall you make marriages with them. You shall not give your daughter to their son, nor take their daughter for your son, for they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. So the anger of the Lord would be aroused against you and destroy you suddenly. That scripture was used in support of the line of Seth versus marrying the line of Cain. That would cause difficulty, and of course we see it. Then we have in First Enoch, and it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And they became pregnant, and they bore great giants. And that's from the book of Enoch. And then the Second Peter that we referenced on the prior page, number 6b, 2 Peter 2:4-5. For if God did not spare the angels who sinned, but cast them down to hell and delivered them into the chains of darkness to be reserved for judgment, and did not spare the ancient world, but saved Noah. So we can see here that the angels that Peter's talking about that God did not spare were in the time of Noah. And so that kind of gives the addition to this scripture. Anyway, let's continue. Hopefully I didn't confuse you too much there. Sometimes these scriptures can get pretty darn deep. So sorry about that. Is this where we go? No, I think we're here, right? Yes, we're here. So the scripture continues. Then the Lord said, My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. So this scripture also requires some deep study to figure out truly what it means. Does it mean that humans should live 120 years? Does it mean that they have 120 years to clean up their act? You know, these things. There's two ways of looking at this. The length of a man's life after the flood would be 120 years instead of 700 to 1,000 years. And there's some good evidence to support that. The age of people shortened quite a bit after the flood, if you notice there on the graph. The reduced lifespan had to do with the loss of protective layer, which allowed great cosmic radiation to increase the aging process. That's what they feel happened, because prior to the flood, they felt that there was like a fog-like layer around the earth that kept it all moist, and radiation from the sun could not get in as well. So once that was taken away with the flood, because some of the waters came from the heaven as well as the deep, the reduced lifespan had to do with the loss of that protective layer that allowed the cosmic radiation to increase the aging process. And that would now, B, the amount of time between now and when the flood, when everyone other than Noah and his family will die in 120 years. There's probably more evidence to support this. If the first theory is true, then everybody's lifespan after the flood would be closer to 120 years. But there are many different years instead of just 120 years. And two, we know Noah is 500 years of age when God tells him to build an ark, Genesis 5:32, and 600 years of age when the floods come, Genesis 7:6. So it could have been 20 years after God makes this statement in Genesis 6:3 that he talks with Noah. So that makes a general sense, because we know that it's going to take him 100 years to build the ark. So is this the 120 that he's talking about? Which theory do you believe and why? I would generally believe the second theory, that it's 120 years, because we already know it's 100 years. And so 20 years added to that is not much difference. So it may be that he's saying that it'll be 120 years, giving him 120 years to clean up their act, or he's going to do something. That's what I believe. So let's continue with the scripture. Genesis 6:4. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were heroes of old, men of renown. Now remember, the Nephilim were the result of the relations between the sons of God and the daughters of men. There was the result of that they were giants called Nephilim. The word Nephilim means giants. Although we always think of the creatures listed here, the word Nephilim is actually used in another scripture of the Bible shown below. It is the words of some of the spies that scout out promised land. So even though we consider these to be Nephilim, Nephilim truly just means giant. And the scripture where it shows up again is Numbers 13, 32b through 33. All the people we saw there were of great size. We saw the Nephilim there, the descendants of Anak came from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. We know the Nephilim are all killed during the flood, so they could not be the Nephilim of this period of time. So it's just because Nephilim means giants. What is the offspring of the daughters of men and the sons of God called? Nephilim. How are the Nephilim described? They are giants. What does the word Nephilim mean? Giant. It means giants. And they were also described as heroes of old, men of renown. Hercules technically would be a Nephilim. So to be clear, assuming the angel theory, the Nephilim's mother would be of what lineage? Man. And the Nephilim's father would be of what lineage? Angels or God. Well, angels, not God. 5, if they are from fallen angels and their fathers are described as someone who could marry any woman they chose, do you think the character of these giants would take after their mother or father? That is, would they be evil like their father? I think if their father could take anything he chose, it would be irresistible to not be like their father and being giants themselves. So that's why they would tend to be evil, because they'd probably take after their God, their angel-like father instead of their mother. Are the people in Numbers, the descendants of Anak, related to the Nephilim of Genesis, or just giants like Goliath? They're just giants like Goliath. They're not related to the Nephilim of Genesis. So the scripture continues. Genesis 6:5. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. These are the things that God saw. He saw exploding population. He saw sexual perversion from the sons of God. He saw demonic activity, of course, the sons of God. He saw constant evil in the heart of man, and he saw widespread corruption and violence. Verse 5 tells us two main problems that God saw on the earth. They are great wickedness, and every inclination of the thoughts of a human heart was evil. How did God feel about all this evil on the earth? He regretted he had made the human beings that he had made. Think of this another way. Was Satan successful in bringing evil into the human race? Absolutely, he was successful. He's probably jumping up and down in joy that God is so troubled with what's happened on the earth. Somehow God had to purge all this evil out of the human race, the people he loved. This wasn't just the evil of the human heart, but evil from demons bred into humans. Satan thought he won, but God had a way to cleanse the earth from all this evil, and we know it as the flood. Genesis 6:7. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I've created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I've made them. How is God going to solve this problem? He's going to wipe off everything from the face of the earth. Other than humans, what else is going to be killed? The animals, the birds, the creatures. Why the animals? Here are some thoughts on that. A, humans had dominions over the animals. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image and our likeness so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals and all the creatures that move along the ground. The evil of the sons of God and the Nephilim may have influenced the animal population too. Think how we have cockfighting, dogfighting, and seem to train some animals to be mean today. And if God is going to start over with man, then he needs to reduce the animal population too to keep everything in balance. He will be saving some humans and some animals. So why do you think the animals had to be killed as well? I think, first of all, there's a balance that has to be made, so you had to do that. I definitely understand C. I do think that, just like a lot of times we see, dogs who have been trained to do, bad things. It may be that as well, that, the animals were being trained to be evil, just as their masters were evil. But I would say mostly C, actually. That's my opinion, though. We don't know. We'll have to ask God, huh? Okay, now side note. Human and animals can be destroyed by the flood, but the demons that contributed to all this could just fly away from the earth. How could they be prevented from doing this again? It's a good question. There are several scriptures that tend to indicate that these sons of God have been dealt with. Jude 6. And the angels who did not keep their positions of authority but abandoned their proper dwelling, these he had kept in darkness, bound with everlasting chains for judgment on the great day. And note, the great day will be the fifth trumpet of the tribulation in Revelations 9, 1 through 11. 1 Peter 3, 18 to 20. For Christ also suffered once for his sins, the righteous for the unrighteous, to bring you to God. He was to put death in the body, but made life in the spirit. He was to put to death in the body, but made life in the spirit. After being made alive, he went and made proclamation to the imprisoned spirits, to those who were disobedient long ago when God waited patiently in the days of Noah while the ark was being built. In it, only a few people, 8 in all, were saved through the water. And then 2 Peter 2, 4 through 5. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but sent them to hell, putting them in chains of darkness to be held for judgment, if he did not spare the ancient world when he brought the flood on its ungodly people, but protected Noah, a preacher of righteousness, and 7 others. So the opinion question is, do you believe these scriptures tell us what happened to the sons of God? They tell us only a small description. I do agree that they deal with these angels, but they only give us a hint of what happened and not the full story. So now we come to the crossword. One across. One theory of the 120 years believes that it is the lifespan after the flood. Number 5, God was deeply troubled over the wickedness of the human race. Other than the book of Genesis, what book also has the word Nephilim in it? Numbers. 9, God was not only going to wipe out the humans, but the animals, the fish and the creatures that move along the ground. And 10, another theory has the daughters of men coming from the line of Cain. 2 down, the sons of God married the daughters of humans. 3, human beings began to increase in number on the earth. 4, one theory describes the sons of God as fallen angels or demons. 6, what were the giants of the earth called? Nephilim. And 7, God said man's days would be 120 days. So that's the chapter for today. Thank you.